Cushing's Bookshelf, episode 26, Savage Gods by Paul Kingsnorth. So, welcome back to Cushing's Bookshelf. I am Nicole Cushing, and without any further ado, allow me to reach back. I'm using the camera here to guide my hand to this week's book. So, this is a little bit outside of my ordinary bailiwick. I saw this at my local independent bookstore and picked it up on a lark, based on the staff recommendation, because it talked about, kind of really getting deep into a writer's process. And of course, I'm always interested in those kinds of books, regardless of whether they come from the genre world or the literary world. This one comes from the latter, having been published by a publisher called $2 Radio, which is based in Columbus, Ohio. And I've heard a lot of good things about them, so I decided to check it out. And my assessment so far, I'm about, a little bit over halfway through this very slim volume, is really a split kind of verdict, kind of an ambivalent verdict about this book. I was about to cast this aside today when I was reading this morning, just because I rarely do that, rarely set aside books, uncompleted, but I was really just not feeling it. And then I persisted, and then I got good. And that's kind of how this book has been for me. It's a nonfiction book, of course, as I kind of suggested earlier. And it's about an author, this author, of course, kind of a memoir of his time having moved from England to a rural area in Ireland, and having, land that he's working and trying to get back to the land, and having some ideas of connecting with the more primitive spirit of humanity. And my problem with it is it gets a little navel-gazing. It gets you get the idea that this is a guy who doesn't, I was going to say something mean. I'm not going to say something mean. But a guy who makes mountains out of molehills. How about that? A guy who is so introspective that, in making such a struggle out of things, kind of like, does a lot of overthinking. So, he reminds me a little bit of Lloyd Dobler from that great movie, Say Anything, that I think Cameron Crowe directed, if I'm not mistaken. But portrayed by John Cusack, and not in a good way. Not the good qualities of Lloyd Dobler, but there's that scene in Say Anything where Lloyd Dobler is, he's just broken up with Ione Skye, or Ione Skye has just broken up with him. And it's raining, and he's kind of like meditating on the rain and saying, like, the rain is my baptism, and this guy reminds me of Lloyd Dobler at that minute, where he's kind of waxing poetical and kind of in a teenagery kind of way. The only problem is that this guy is in his 40s. Some of it is kind of this self-torture, this, kind of waxing poetical in a way that's dramatic and not convincing. And you kind of have to wonder what's going on with a book like this. Is it that Kingsnorth, because the other part of it, there are some really astute observations about writing in here as well. So I have to wonder, okay, did an editor monkey around with this and encourage him to throw in all of these kind of navel-gazing, dramatic kind of aspects, and it kind of ruined the really good stuff about writing? Or did the editor save this book by discouraging it being completely navel-gazing, over-analysis, and encourage, the author to go more in the direction of, talking about writing. Or maybe it's none of the above. I mean, I can't say, obviously. I don't know the author. I don't know the editor. I don't know the press. So, like I said, a very mixed verdict so far today for this book. And also, I finished reading Thomas Bernhard's book, The Loser, today as well. And a mixed verdict for that one, too, I think, for me. It was just kind of like, I talked a little bit about it on my Facebook. Kind of, there's something missing from it. It doesn't have the kinds of qualities that work for me typically when I'm reading Eastern European, dark, pessimistic literary fiction. And I'm not quite sure. I on Facebook, I speculate a little bit about what might have been the case there with The Loser by Thomas Bernhard. But as for this book, so far, mixed review. I will be finishing it because, like I said, it's short. I'm on like page 66 of 126. So, more than halfway through and just 60 more pages. So I should finish it by the end of the week. And that's our book for this week. So take care, everyone. And until next time, keep on reading.